What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports and this is the SEC football channel. We continue to give you the top 10 players on every SEC team, and that continues today with Texas A&M. This is a team that really lost a lot from last season in the front seven. On the offensive line, Travion Williams is gone. Top tight end, Jay Sternberger is gone. So there seems to be this expectation that Texas A&M is going to be a top 10 team, and I've seen them ranked that high in some top 10 polls, in some preseason polls, but I just don't see that being the case. And I think this video will kind of show you that there's not a lot of really great players with experience on this roster. Now, they've got some good young talent, and if those guys step up, they could be a really good football team, and I think they're going to be a good team. I didn't say that they're going to be a bad team, but they will definitely have to lean on some very young players, some inexperienced players, if they're going to be a contender in the SEC West this year. I'm a little hesitant on that. I was pretty high on Texas A&M last year. If you go back and watch my preseason videos from last season, I was pretty high on this team. I was one that predicted them to have a really good season, and that turned out to be true. But this year, I'm just not sold on them. I kind of felt the same way about LSU preseason last year, so maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll surprise me, but I still think Texas A&M might be a year away. But let's get started with our top 10 players. And you're going to see some very young players on this list. Their top 6 tacklers are gone from last season. We're going to go with a true freshman at number 10, Brian Williams. He was the number 6 safety recruit in the country. You look at their secondary last season. They were inconsistent. They played pretty well at times. They had some guys that started the season as starters, wound up losing their starting jobs. They had a lot of shuffling around, and doing some research on this team, trying to figure out exactly how the secondary is going to look this season. It's tough because there really is not a lot of for sure things going on in this secondary. So I think a true freshman like Brian Williams could come in and maybe become a starter and make a huge difference on this team. And at number 9, we're going to stick with the secondary. Maybe their best player coming back is De'Vion Renfro. 37 tackles for him last season. He had a sack. He had 5 pass breakups. And again, as we go through this list and you look at the stats from last season, you can't go too much off of that because most of their production is gone. So you're not going to see a lot of production when you see these numbers. So keep that in mind here as we try to figure out who the guys that might emerge on defense are going to be. And yeah, we've got to put a punter in here because it's tough to come up with 10 players. Braden Mann was all SEC first team. So again, the best punter in the SEC last season. He averaged 51 yards per punt. That is a very good average. And sometimes punters can be a difference maker when you're talking about flipping the field, changing field position, pinning the other team back deep. That can be a huge factor in a football game. So yeah, I think their punter could be big for them, and that is Braden Mann. He is at number 8. We're going to go back to a true freshman for number 7. That is Marvin Leer. He was the number 2 defensive tackle recruit in the country. And when we talk about recruiting, we're always using 24/7 Sports. That's just the recruiting service that I use for my videos. He is an early enrollee, so he's already going to be on campus, already going to be able to go through spring. They're going to need some help up front. Like I said, almost everyone from their front 7 is gone from last season, so I think he could definitely emerge as a star, and I've got him at number 7. We move on to number 6. Of course, Travion Williams is gone. He was so good for them last year. Just really an underrated running back. I mean, that kid was one of the best in the country. You look at JaySean Corbin, their leading returning running back, 346 rush yards for him last season. Did average 5.7 yards per carry, had 1 touchdown. Also had a big kickoff return touchdown. He is an electric player, very fast, and I think he could be the next Travion Williams. I think there's a lot riding on him because I think they are going to need a running game. And if it's not Corbin, someone else is going to have to step up. But I think he's probably going to be that guy. And how about this? The 3rd true freshman that we've already put in this list. Like I said, if they're going to be good, they're going to have young guys step up. That is Baylor Cupp. He is the number 1 tight end recruit in the country. We saw what they were able to do last year with Jay Sternberger. I believe he was a JUCO guy, maybe. He's off to the NFL. Jimbo Fisher loves to use his tight ends. He loves Baylor Cupp. I saw an article where he had said some really good things about him. So I expect him to get into that starting rotation right away and be a big time playmaker for this offense. Moving on to number 4, how about Anthony Hines, a guy that didn't even play last year, did not play last season. Again, new faces are going to be the key for Texas A&M if they're going to have a really good season. But in 2017, he was an all-freshman. He was SEC all-freshman first team. So this kid has talent. He had a year to recover from his injury. Maybe sit back, learn the defense, learn some things from some of the leaders that were there last season. That could bode well for him. And I think he could turn into potentially the leader of this defense. At number 3, we've got Courtney Davis, the returning leading receiver for them. 45 catches on the season last year, 585 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. So he's very good in the red zone. I think he is going to have to be the go-to guy. They've got some talented receivers. They do have those guys back. You can see this team throw the football a lot if they can't develop much of a running game. And again, a lot of questions on the offensive line as well, so they're going to have to protect. But I think Davis could be the go-to guy for Kellen Mond. I've got him at number 3. And speaking of Kellen Mond, we've got him at number 2. Look at his numbers from last year. Over 3,000 yards passing, 472 yards on the ground. Very good runner. He had 31 total touchdowns. He was pretty efficient throwing the football and surprised a lot of people, including myself, to the way he played, the way he came on last year. Just a leader for this offense. I think he's going to be the best player on the offense, and I think this team's success will really depend on how well Kellen Mond plays in 2019. But we're going to go back to the defensive side of the ball for our number 1 player, and this might surprise some people, but I'm going to go with Justin Matta. Last season, 40 tackles. He is their returning leading tackler. He had the most tackles out of anyone returning, and that's just 40. So that just shows you, again, how much they lost on defense. He had 10 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He was a monster on the defensive line, and I expect that to continue. I think he might have to be really a leader for this defense, and I think he's going to be a breakout star, an All-American type player in 2019. If you have not heard of him, keep your eyes out for him as we head into this upcoming season, because I think he's going to be a star, and I think he's going to be the best player on this Texas A&M football team. But again, a lot of young faces are going to have to step up, play right away, and that is going to be a big factor in determining how well this Texas A&M team plays in 2019. They have a really tough schedule. They could be a top 15 team and go 7-5 because their schedule is that tough. But I think they'll be a top 25 team. It's just a matter of, again, some of these younger, inexperienced players. What can Jimbo Fisher get out of them? And can Kellen Mond turn into a superstar at the quarterback position? Those things will determine how good this team plays. And that's, in my opinion, going to be their top 10 players for 2019. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Who would you add that maybe I left off? Again, I think this is the only team that we've done that has had 3 true freshmen make it into the top 10. But again, thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports SEC Football Channel.